Did the world just stop smoking? I mean, it feels like everywhere you go, there are more no smoking signs than actual smokers. But if that's true, what are all these tobacco companies doing with their time? Knitting? Or did they just find another way to keep us hooked? Let's dive in. So first off, smoking is still very much a thing. Just because you don't see people puffing away in cafes anymore doesn't mean the world collectively said, yeah, we're good, let's quit. No, some countries are still lighting up like it's the 1950s. Spoiler alert, China, I'm looking at you. But more on that later. Let's talk about the OGs of smoking: Philip Morris International, British American Tobacco, Japan Tobacco International, and of course the behemoth that controls a whopping 40% of the world's cigarettes, China National Tobacco Corporation, or CNTC. Yeah, 40%. Imagine being so big that your competition isn't even competing anymore. They're just watching in awe. That's like if one pizza place sold 40% of the world's pizzas, except instead of pizza, it's a health crisis. But let's stay focused. China's smoking situation is huge. Over 300 million people light up there regularly thanks to CNTC. This company is so massive, it basically is the Chinese smoking market. Forget exporting. It's like they're running a local monopoly, just without the do not pass go part. Now, while some companies are raking in the cash from legacy cigarettes, the cool kids of the industry are moving on to something new. Enter heated tobacco and vaping. This is like the diet soda of the smoking world. Same addiction, fewer nasty chemicals. Allegedly. Whether it's actually better for you, well, that's another story. Big shout out to Philip Morris and their IQOS device. This thing is everywhere. Japan, IQOS. South Korea, IQOs. Europe, you guessed it, IQOs. And not to be outdone, British American Tobacco has their Gullo device, which is basically IQOS's cousin trying to steal the spotlight. But before we go thinking we're all going to be vaping into the sunset, let me just remind you, we've got some serious competition between these two. It's basically the heated tobacco version of a Coke versus Pepsi fight. And don't think the vape game has been forgotten either. Juul was everywhere for a while before it got slapped with a ton of regulations. And Vuse, Blue, and others are still out there, puffing away. Even Altria, the folks who make Marlboro, invested billions in Juul. Talk about a rebrand. But wait, it's not all smooth sailing in vape land. Regulatory crackdowns on vaping, especially flavors that appeal to kids, have gotten these companies into some hot water. Like, what flavor is strawberry bubblegum? Who's the target audience here? 10-year-olds? And yeah, there have been some scary health incidents, particularly related to illegal vape products. So the vaping future is kind of cloudy. So while the Western world is switching to fancy gadgets, some countries are still puffing on traditional cigarettes like it's a national sport. I'm talking about places like Indonesia, where over 60% of men smoke. And not just cigarettes, but Critex, those spicy clove-infused smokes. Seriously, you can smell those things from across the room. And Russia, yeah, they're still on board the cigarette train too. And don't even get me started on India, where smoking and other forms of tobacco like bidis and chewing tobacco are widespread. Let's hit the numbers. In the US, smoking has dropped to around 12% of adults. Big win. But don't celebrate too soon. Over in China, 300 million people are still puffing away. India, smoking rates are high, but so is the use of chewing tobacco. Super unhealthy, but somehow less cool looking than cigarettes. And Europe, smoking's in decline, but in places like Russia, it's still fairly common. Indonesia is another hotspot where smoking is like part of the culture. So did the world stop smoking? Well, kind of, but also definitely not. In some places, yes, people are quitting like it's the latest fitness craze. But in others, smoking is alive and well. Whether it's cigarettes, heated tobacco, or the trendy vape, nicotine is still a global powerhouse. At the end of the day, the tobacco industry isn't going anywhere. They've just evolved. Cigarettes, heated sticks, vape clouds, it's all about keeping the cash flow flowing. And hey, as long as there's demand, they'll keep finding ways to sell you nicotine. Even if it's wrapped in a shiny new gadget. So next time you see someone with a vape or an IQOS, just remember, Smoking didn't disappear, it just got a makeover. Like and subscribe if you want more juicy industry secrets. And let me know in the comments, have you seen a shift from smoking to vaping or heated tobacco where you live?